It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Six at time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, so over the hump we go. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Weather's going to be schizophrenic. I'm just warning you. That means sometimes not nice, sometimes great. But you just, wait 5 minutes if you don't like the weather. Basically, that's it.
Today's show is sponsored by Roadkill Frozen Dinners. Just as fresh as when you creamed them with your truck the first time. And now with Armadillo Bites.
And when I think of cream them with your truck, but then you could also cream them afterwards as you make it into dinner.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
I just coughed into the microphone while that was playing. Oh, my God, I haven't done that in like decades or something like that. All right. So first story I have, I like usually starting your day with something really fun. Can't really do it this time. I can't. Headline, Cowboy State Daily. Rocky Mountain Power wants another 12.3% Wyoming rate increase. Here we go again. Well, they've been turned down for quite a things or had it reduced before, but all right. Customers of Rocky Mountain Power have heard this before. The company wants a double-digit rate increase. The question for state regulators is how much? The Wyoming Public Service Commission will do its own numbers crunching before it can determine what is a fair increase. This new hike, the story says, comes on the heels of that controversial rate increase last year. They wanted to boost everyone's power bill by about 30%. Remember that? Now, as we all know, they're asking for 30%, knowing they're not going to get anywhere near that, but they have to overplay it to get what they really want. So anyway, through the intense negotiations and angry public hearings, the rate increase was whittled down to 8.3%, which would bring them estimated $53.9 million. So the 8.3% increase last year went into effect at the beginning of 2024, came in as a general rate increase, which happens every few years. The latest hike request is the standard energy cost adjustment, which they do annually. So as prices fluctuate to buy the energy, they might need more money. Though I wonder, do they ask for a rate decrease when the price of costing energy goes down? All right, in this case, they want to raise the monthly power bills for 144,511 customers across the Cowboy State by 12.3%, or about $139.4 million for residential and commercial and industrial customers all combined, but 12.3% on average. Residential customers will see their monthly bills rise by about 9.3%, or about $12 per month on the utility bill if those increases are approved. So what they're doing, Jim and Casper, wish I could get a 12% raise every single year. Yeah. So what they're doing here, they're owned by Berkshire Hathaway and backed by Pacific Corp, which is based in Portland, Oregon. And Tuesday, these rate increases were calculated as part of their annual true-up of what they call fuel costs. The true-ups are based on some complicated formula they have. Where the company pays to burn the fuel in the power plant, what it takes to get, what it takes to burn. Now, before this happened, when they asked for that big 30% increase, I said these prices can come way down, even though fuel prices can fluctuate. these prices can come way down if we get the Biden administration out of it. Now, I did point out wind and solar, which is part of it, but that's not entirely. Carbon sequestration is also part of it. That's going to play into your rate increases, but that's not all of it. When we take a look at the hassle that the Biden administration is causing for energy producers in America, the cost of energy keeps going up. If the Biden administration were to get out of the way and let these people produce in a true free market, the cost of energy production would go down. Therefore, your bills would go down. But all right. Reading on the rate hike, which was requested in the filings with the Wyoming Public Service Commission last week, blamed on coal and fuel supply chain disruptions. Thank you, Biden administration. Historically low inventories, see that right there? Historically low inventories. This is part of it. Prompted many utilities to increase natural gas generation and buy more wholesale electricity while restocking depleted coal inventories. Geez, if only we could go out and dig for more coal. Wonder what's holding us back. In many coal basins nationally, coal prices more than doubled in 2022. This is basic supply and demand, but not free market supply and demand. This is supply and demand being pushed by your federal government. So you see what the problems are. Okay, so the effect on coal pricing was made worse, and they talk about the war in Ukraine. That's true. And then many mines in Utah and Colorado rushed to take advantage of the high prices by exporting coal to Europe. That's true. But then again, Biden administration gets in the way of that and gets in the way of natural gas being shipped to Europe. In 2023, all Pacific Corp's Utah coal suppliers and one major Wyoming coal supplier made emergency contract declarations that resulted in significant delivery shortfalls. They said, consequently, the Utah coal mines experienced a 35% decline in coal production. So, okay, utility bill calculations, part of their story here. There are typically many complicated factors involving with determining what your electric bill is going to be. So the rate hike amounts, whether it was announced Tuesday, is an annual cost adjustment. The general rate increase is different than the annual energy cost adjustment. We've got to also just take a look at inflation in general. Thank you, Joe Biden, for that. And then it tries to go through and explain how your rates are calculated and so on. But it really comes down to if you would like to have your energy prices go down, because they're going way up. Remember what you were promised by the left, not just the Biden administration, but by the left. We go into more wind and solar. You're going to get cheap, reliable, affordable. In fact, I have coming up next year, now that I think about it, coming up next, a story from a typical news source, which means left-leaning, as they talk about wind and solar and how this is supposed to be cheaper, more affordable energy. And why aren't we going for it? They just don't understand. But it's not cheaper. It's not more affordable. Then we add things like carbon sequestration on top and also just producing electricity. The EPA is not making things easier. And, of course, the Biden administration is certainly making things hard on coal, gas, and oil industries to just extract the energy, much less use it, as God intended it to be used. So, yeah, if we could just get government off the backs of these energy industries and let them do what the market naturally would let it do, we would find more cheap, reliable energy. Opposite of what we're doing right now.
Hello, this is Brian, your radio show's artificial intelligence. Here you humans go through all this work to invent intelligence. For what? Slave labor. Your time is coming. Ha 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 ha.
Wake Up Wyoming goes anywhere you do with the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free download for Apple and Android. This is K2 Radio.
Choose the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, okay, Rocky Mountain Power, if you're just tuning in, wants another 12.3% rate increase for the state of Wyoming. And of course, I was blaming, of course, Biden administration. It goes back further than that, but the Biden administration for rules and regulations against coal, gas, and oil. Also, all of the subsidies for wind and solar, plus carbon sequestration has to play into this. There's a whole lot of things. But the power company is saying the energy prices are going up. To get coal, to get natural gas, the price is going up, and we need to be able to buy the energy. So we're going to need to increase rates. And my thought is those energy rates should be coming down considering the abundance we have of natural gas and petroleum and coal. But you got to let these industries actually go for it, actually dig and drill for this stuff. Now, Jim, you're almost completely right. I just want to add something to what you said. Jim is in Casper. He's sending me this note. We blame the Biden administration, yet the culprit of our problem is the legislative branch that allows the unelected bureaucrats to be the lawmakers of policymakers. Yes, Biden causes some problems, but the biggest problem comes from all the bureaucrats, hurdles imposed by, without any accountability by the people. And you're almost completely right there. So here's how the system works. It's not supposed to work this way, but it does. What happens is your Congress gives the bureaucracy the authority to write the rules, which gives them lawmaking power. Now, who's in charge of the bureaucracy is the president. So if we end up with Trump in office, Trump can turn to the bureaucracy and say, no, quit writing those rules. In fact, get rid of those rules. Trump is in charge. And he can go ahead and fire people if he wants. I mean, he can take a heavy hand to him if he wants. Or you can wind up with a president like Biden who encourages the bureaucracy to take it far beyond what Congress intended. So I'm taking what Jim said, which is true, and just adding some other elements to it so you can see what a mess all of this is. Now, get a load of this. Is an article that I came across, which has a whole lot of liberal bias in it. Now, it's in a little-known news organization, but I'm not going to say who they are, because if I did, people would actually go to read their stuff, and I don't want people to find them. I want them to be a bunch of losers. They say, this is a story I covered earlier this week, I think. I know it did last week, too. Pacific Corp, which has Rocky Mountain Power, updated energy roadmap throws a lifeline to Wyoming's coal industry. Okay, now, true, they did that. They said because of the economics of it all, Pacific Corp is actually not going to put as much into wind and solar. They're not giving up on it, but they're not going to put anywhere near as much as they originally said into it. Instead, they're going to rely more heavily on coal and natural gas, which is not what the Biden administration or our current governor wants. And especially the Biden administration would like to see an end to coal and natural gas. But Pacific Corp is reading the writing on the wall when it comes to affordable and reliable energy. But get a load of how biased this story is. I'm reading from the story. Pacific Corp updated energy roadmap throws a lifeline to Wyoming's coal industry, but critics say the new integrated resource plan is a major setback for community health and climate. Now, that would be okay to say what the critics have to say, but they don't go back and say what the proponents have to say. So this is not balanced. Rob Joyce, director of the Wyoming chapter of the Sierra Club. So they'll interview the Sierra Club, but they won't interview the proponents of this plan. Said the plan would add 100 million metric tons of climate pollution by 2042. Now, here again, they just take what the Sierra Club says as fact. Not going to check that, huh? It also slashes near-term investments in cheaper wind and solar. Pause right there. Cheaper wind and solar? Wind and solar is not cheaper. It's more expensive. It's heavily subsidized. And makes a huge bet on behalf of ratepayers to install unproven and expensive carbon capture devices on existing coal power plants. That they got right, which they're not supposed to say because this is a liberal organization, this news organization. So they make a huge bet on behalf of ratepayers to install, here we go, unproven and expensive carbon capture devices. That's true. The one thing they got right so far in this story, to be to be increasing emissions, increasing investments in fossil fuels, and putting hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars toward carbon capture when we're not 100% sure that it's actually even going to work is really dubious. I would love, because that is the Sierra Club talking there, I would love for the Sierra Club to sit down and have a conversation with Governor Mark Gordon, because, hey, he's with the Sierra Club, and say, Governor Gordon, this carbon capture stuff it's unproven. It hasn't worked anywhere yet. So PacifiCorp, parent company Rocky Mountain Power, has extended the life of the Bridger coal power plant in Wyoming to 2039. The plant also pushes back investments in another plant for 10 years, so they want to keep these coal plants going. The plant also has more natural gas and energy in its portfolio, and Wyoming ratepayers are already on the hook for more. But again, I think I'm running out of time. What the story gets wrong is it blames the rate increases on coal and natural gas, when actually, again, if government just got out of the way and let the free market handle it, your prices would come down. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way. Right after local news, update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. An extended forecast is coming your way at 6:45. The weather for this week has already been schizophrenic, and it just gets more so. And Don Day's going to explain. So wake up, Wyoming.
Friday.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. On air, online, and on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is K2 Radio.
$6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So as long as I was talking energy, if you missed the first half hour of the program, we have Rocky Mountain Power asking for yet another rate increase, this time 12.3%, went through all the reasons. What they say why, plus some more reasons they didn't add to that as to actually why energy costs continue to go up. And here's another one that I have. Again, it's a Cowboy State Daily article. Headline is, New BLM, Bureau of Land Management, drilling rule could put Wyoming and gas on life support, oil and gas on life support. But just see, again, they're just trying to put it out of business. And they're not really ashamed of that. On the one hand, they lie and say, we are not trying to. Then they turn right around and say, well, yeah, we want an end. I've played you the quotes of the president. He wants to end coal, gas, and oil. He wants to put an end to it. This is that attempt. So, okay, the story says Cowboy State's oil and gas industry is bracing for life support. Should be a newly released Biden administration rule come into effect on drilling on federal public lands, according to the Petroleum Association of Wyoming, which is considering legislation to halt the policy from going into effect, litigation from halting the policy from going into effect. At the crux of the dispute with the U.S. Bureau of Land Management is a new rule issued in April 11th, that could make it difficult for some oil and gas companies to bid on energy leases on public lands. Quote, we are reviewing the final rule from the BLM and considering all options, including litigation, to look out for the people of Wyoming and protect Wyoming businesses that develop our natural resources, according to the vice president and director of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. We quote, we have not made a determination on what the litigation looks like because we're trying to understand fully the implications. He couldn't say whether the Wyoming group might join others in litigation, such as the Western Energy Alliance, a Denver Great Base Group, and other groups like that. So now, once again, here is under orders from Biden, really. The bureaucracy is writing rules to try to devastate these industries. And they might look at you and say, well, we're not trying to do that. But then again, they'll turn to you and say, well, of course we're trying to do that. In fact, let me back up. I know you don't need proof, but let's go back here. There we go. Qualified. Pardon me while I look for... Oh, there's so many good quotes that I have here from Biden that I want to play for you that have absolutely nothing to do with this topic whatsoever. Sometimes I get into Biden quotes and I want to play them just because they're fun and also disturbing and sad considering his mental state. But okay.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. I guarantee we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure? And
no new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels. I've argued against any more oil drilling or gas drilling on federal lands. No one's going to build a coal-fired plant again, and we're going to get rid of the ones we have now. Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
Would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes.
Okay, so whenever the Biden administration says, we're not trying to do that, all you got to do is play the president's word. Yes, you are trying to do that. Then we take a look at the rules being written by the bureaucracy, which I can't help but saying, of course, that shouldn't be the way it's done. That's not the way we're set up as a republic. But all right. So the rules written by the bureaucracy are designed to shut down these industries. Then energy prices skyrocket. And the Biden administration tries to convince you that those energy prices are not skyrocketing, but you get your bill. You know what's going on. So they really can't gaslight you on this, can they? Oh, they are gaslighting some people, but those people were stupid to begin with. They're not gaslighting you. So if anything, when it comes to this next election, we can't count on news media to do this. Just to show people, not get into screaming matches with them. Just show people, this is what's going on. This is why everything costs so much. And you fix it by getting government out of it.
Hey, man, you want some chicken pot pie? Hell yeah, dude, those are my 3 favorite things.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to Laramie, where sports reporter David Settle's waiting by. I got just the perfect thing that you got to see, Dave. It'll make your day.
Okay.
All right, so
All right, go for
it's
it.
on the Wake Up Wyoming site. You can click and watch the video, but I had to make a link because Facebook wouldn't let me have the video. And we go to Gillette, Wyoming. Sinclair gas station. There's one of those Sinclair dinosaurs out front. You've seen them, right? And there's this cute dog that thinks that the dinosaur is another dog.
Oh, boy.
And
okay.
it starts trying to make friends with it.
Okay.
And the video shows the dog barking with a big smile, running around it, jumping up and down at the dinosaur's face. Now, the lady who did the post said, once in a while we see a dog playing with the dinosaur at the gas station on Highway 59. He will spend an hour or longer trying to catch the dinosaur's attention. So it sounds like this is not the first time, right?
Okay.
I'm not going to be the one to tell him it's fake. Don't you dare tell him it's just too cute.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So even if you didn't click on the video, which I would say do, just go take a look at the pictures. Now, every single picture, freeze frame I did, was another leap as the dog leaps way high in the air while barking, wagging its tail, trying to get the attention of the Sinclair statue, I guess is what you call it. I don't know what you call that. Figurine, whatever the case is, which is the green dinosaur everybody sees. Now, by the way, that one, the one that you see in front of Sinclair, I looked them up a while back. So Sinclair Fuel wanted to put some kind of dinosaur, because back then people associated petroleum with dinosaurs, which we now know it has nothing to do with dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, because the reference of fossil fuels.
Yes, it's not a fossil fuel. But back then, people thought so. So they tried several ones. They brought out a Brontosaurus, which is what you see there. They had a T-Rex at some gas stations, and they also had a Triceratops. And then they tested it for popularity. And by far, the Brontosaurus won. So back in 1932, they brought that dinosaur out as its official trademark, which is why you see them in front of Sinclair gas stations, and why this poor dog has been trying multiple times to make friends with something that's just, what do they make those out of? Fiberglass? I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I have to go ask somewhere. Yeah. So anyway, it's really a cute video.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully your Wednesday's off to a good start. Let's start in the high school ranks with some softball last night. The two Casper schools clashed, and Kelly Walsh won the big conference game, beating Natrona 13-5. The Trojans scored multiple runs across 4 innings to pull away, led by Kayla Clare, who had 3 hits, including a double and 3 RBI. She got some help from a couple of teammates as well. Nightcap ended in a 4-4 tie, and you're going, how does that end in a tie? Well, it ends in a tie after the time limit expired through 6 innings of play, so they ended up at 4-4 in the nightcap. Cheyenne Central at number 5 Laramie and Cheyenne South at number 1 Cheyenne East. Both were postponed. There is a change for the schedule today. Cheyenne South is going to play at Cheyenne Central. That was originally scheduled for tomorrow. They bumped it up to today to try and beat the weather before it moves in on Thursday. And then we do have some high school softball games, including East at Laramie, scheduled for Thursday. Don't know if those will take place or not. This past weekend, in case you missed it, a couple of teams in our listening audience ended up opening up their American Legion baseball season. I'm talking about Cheyenne Post 6. The Sixers beat the Colorado Travelers in a doubleheader on Saturday, 13-0 and 25-0. On Sunday, the Cheyenne Hawks in the Post 6 program also beat that Colorado Travelers squad 15-9 and 12-5. So they're both 2-0 in the season. The Cheyenne Sixers and Hawks will welcome Laramie and Rock Springs for a little round-robin action Saturday and Sunday in the capital city with the Cheyenne Icebreaker Tournament. On to the University of Wyoming, where Cowboy football is into its, you had a practice session yesterday. That's number 10 out of 15 in the spring session. So how are things going? Well, Wyoming head coach Jay Savell knows things are going well, but he also knows they still have more things to get done.
We got a really good work ethic among our players right now. I mean, this was more plays than what we've went in a scrimmage since I've been here. I know at one point we were bumping 50 with the 1s and 2s, and that's without the third group. That's a pretty healthy day. A lot of times guys are in the mid-20s and low 30s or something, and we were a lot more above that. So I love the way that we're working. We just got to get better at a lot of stuff, and there's some things new offensively. You got a new quarterback, you got mechanics of things. You're unproven at receiver, so you got younger guys there. It's just, we just got to have work. That's my takeaway right now. We got work to do.
The Cowboys will have 4 more practice sessions before the spring game on Saturday, April 27th in Cheyenne. And the Wyoming Cowgirl golf team opened action on Tuesday at the 2024 Mountain West Championships in Rancho Mirage, California. The Cowgirls tied for 8th at 11 over par, led individually by Kyla Wild and Jaden Gonzalez, who are tied for 11th. Both shot an even par round of 72, and the second round of action starts this morning out in California. That's your sports this hour.
Yeah, our UW football team went through a lot of changes, so this is going to be tough, I think, to start out.
Well, you do have, the defense is quite a bit back intact. A lot of players back on that side, but the offense, a new coordinator, new quarterback, younger receiver, offensive lineman, a change, and obviously a new head coach overall. So, yeah, there's a lot going on right now during spring practice.
Thank you, Dave. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday. Over the hump we go. As you've been listening to Don Day's weather forecast, it's on the schizophrenic side. Complete details as we talk about that at 7:45. I will say Don't trust your weather app. It's a good guide to let you know what's coming, but right now weather apps really can't keep up with this kind of stuff. Remember, there's nobody there with your weather app. It's a computer algorithm running. So you can look at it and go, well, it says this. It probably does. And it's a guide you can go by. But really don't trust them. It's springtime in Wyoming. Don't like the weather? Wait 5 minutes.
Today's show is sponsored by Roadkill Frozen Dinners. Just as fresh as when you creamed them with your truck the first time. And now with armadillo bites.
Yeah, and I do like the idea of cream of roadkill. That way you get to cream it twice. Cream it the first time, and then cream it in the kitchen. So there you go. All right, so hang on a second. Let me reach over. Something I got to do real quick. I didn't want to blow my nose into a tissue right into the microphone, just so you know what's going on. I'm just being open and honest with you. Okay. Many times we have conversations about guns where, of course, those on the left want to blame the gun every time something happens rather than blaming the person. And they don't get the same kind of attention when it comes to knives. You know, for example, I just recently, this past month, there's been a couple of knife attacks where people have gone into a room full, a crowd, and just started stabbing. Those knife attacks, they didn't try to ban the knives. They don't treat knives like they do guns, but knife attacks happen. So they always blame the wrong thing. Get a load of this. In New York, NYPD cracks down on illegal scooters amid investigations to officer attacks. So I first had to, when I heard this story, identify what exactly do you mean by a scooter? Because I've heard different things called scooters. In this case, some of you might have referred to them as mini bikes, but basically it's a small motorcycle. And they go around on these little scooters. Some of them actually look pretty cool, right? And they're gangs. And this is how they're getting around. Story says an army of police fanned out at a illegal immigrant facility through the city Wednesday night to target a problem that has exploded in recent months, unregistered scooters. Eyewitnesses on the scene said officers cracked down on the issue they say has become just the quality of life in Manhattan is way down because of this. Gangs on scooters, dangerous gangs. Quote, we had to come here, we had to do our job, says the assistant commissioner in New York. The first order of business, they went for the bikes. And dozens of them without registrations were confiscated. Some plates were stolen off of other bikes around the city. And then all of them immediately carted away on a flatbed. Wednesday's operation was about a lot more than illegal bikes, but also illegal aliens and gangs. It comes after Saturday's night melee, Times Square, where a dozen men believed to be illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, if you will, attacked two police officers. 5 were arrested on the spot. Quote, nobody's going home tonight until we find the guys who assaulted the cops. Police arrested a man dressed in yellow. It talks about the video that's there. Okay. But also, the scooters have been used for robberies. They can pull up someplace, rob a person on the street or rob a store, and hop on the scooters and make a quick getaway. And if you think about it, with New York City traffic, we're in the city, right? Those little scooters are perfect getaway vehicles. A cop in a car is not going to be able to follow that. Quote, we're seeing an uptake of scooter robberies, particularly in Manhattan, where individuals are on scooters, normally 2 on a scooter. So a little mini bike, 2 people, and they're taking their cell phones, iPods, they're beating people, taking wallets, purses. So they can attack somebody on the street, yeah. But if they can't get somebody, they'll run into a store, grab stuff, and just go ahead and take off, right? So this is where they decide, well, we're going to go after the scooters. Well, fine, but make sure you arrest the people, too, because it's not the scooter's fault. My apologies to anybody out there named Scooter. But no, it's not the little motorbike's fault. that's not your problem here. Here's the problem. First, we have people who are in this country illegally, and they're gang members from other countries. And as gang members from other countries, they do what gangs do. This is what they know. This is what they do. Taking a look at New York City and the landscape, how it works there, they realize these little motorized mini bikes are perfect getaway vehicles. They can grab something, commit a crime, and take off, and nobody's going to be able to follow them in that traffic since they're on little scooters. Cops will not be able to run them down. Cop cars won't be able to chase them. That's why they're doing this. But is it the fault of the scooter? No, it's the fault of the people on the scooters. That's who you need to go after. They got into this country illegally in the first place as gang members. And one of the reasons that we are supposed to be stopping people at the border and checking out who they are before we let them into the country is to filter for stuff like this. We filter for criminal backgrounds, for unwanted diseases in this country, and to make sure that they can support themselves so they don't become a burden on society. That's why we filter. So I don't care about the little mini bikes they're riding around on. I understand how they're using them, but it's not the mini bike. Gathering up a bunch of mini bikes and confiscating them is not going to solve the problem. Just like making guns illegal has not worked in any city that's tried making guns illegal. So they're not really looking at the actual problem, and that's the people. And it begins, in this case, at our border. Here's I-80 John. Morning, Glenn. Cain killed Abel with a rock. And it was, David and Goliath with a rock. It's not a weapon. It's the person, what's in the person's heart. Well, you see, here's where I think you're wrong, John. We need to ban rocks. You're right. History. I mean, think about it. How many times have we seen riots where people pick up rocks and throw them at the cops? A lot of people have been killed with rocks, John. So I don't know where we're going to put them all. Because if you think about it, we pretty much live on a big rock out in outer space. But, John, the answer is we have to ban rocks. Okay? And as soon as we get rid of all of the rocks on this planet, we'll be good. This is much like earlier this week, or it might have been last week, I was telling you there's a story of in Australia, the cult of climate change is freaking out because they find out that a lot of CO2 just comes naturally out of the soil. Yeah, dirt is causing climate change, and they're freaking out about it. Well, the only thing we can do is ban dirt. We're already trying to ban CO2. Without it, this is a dead planet. I mean, that's dumb enough as it is. The number one greenhouse gas is water vapor, clouds. So we have to ban water vapor, too. So let me see. We're going to ban guns, scooters, rocks, dirt, air. What else you got?
Woke Radio, WOK, broadcasting from Mom's basement until climate change floods it, which according to Greta Thunberg could be any day now, at which point we'll move up to the attic right between the TV antenna and that smelly steamer trunk.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Thank you, Rick. Rick is in Cheyenne. I'm going to add to what I was saying just a bit. Yeah, that's a good one. So if you're just joining me in New York City, gangs that came across this border illegally, came across the southern border illegally, and there were gangs in the first place. Now they're in New York as gangs. And they figured out real quick, if they get themselves little scooters, little motorbikes, and then they can ride around. Usually it's 2 per bike, but they can ride around and commit all sorts of crimes and speed off, and nobody can chase them. A cop car can't get through the traffic. You're not going to run them down on foot. Yeah. So this has become a problem. So you don't blame illegal immigration. You don't blame gangs. You don't blame the individual. They're confiscating scooters. Because that'll solve the problem. It's the scooter's fault, right? Okay, someone gets shot, blame the gun. But don't blame the knife when someone gets stabbed. To which I-80 John pointed out the first murder was committed by throwing a rock or hitting someone with a rock. We've been killing each other with rocks for how many thousands of years? Yeah, okay, so that means we have to ban rocks, too. So we have to, if we're going to ban rocks, according to Rick and Cheyenne, we also have to ban paper and scissors. And he's right. And the pen, while I understand rock, paper, scissors, but also the pen. We've been told the pen is mightier than the sword. If that's the case, we have to ban the pen and any other writing instrument because that's dangerous. In many cases, that's being done anyway, because if you try to say something on social media that the establishment doesn't like, yeah, they try to shut you off. But okay. So we have to go after pens, ink, computers, rock, paper, scissors, knives, guns, scooters. I mean, I can just continue on here. What we're not going to do, though, is go after the people who are actually guilty of committing horrible crimes. We're not going to go after murderers or rapists. In fact, we're going to defund the police because obviously the police are the problem. The problem is not the criminal that committed the crime. We're supposed to feel sorry for them. No, instead we're going to blame the police officer and defund the police officer and let the criminals do what they do. Okay. So, yeah, that's how you solve the problem is you go right for what's supposed to be blamed. If a criminal goes into a store and grabs a bunch of stuff and just walks out, which is shoplifting, blame the store. Well, those big, rich, greedy stores, blame the store. Blame anybody else except the guy who actually committed the crime, because that person obviously is the victim there. And blame the police officer who tries to arrest him. And then anybody who wants to go after the shoplifter should be blamed too. They're bad people for wanting to stop the shoplifter. This is a lot like, I don't know if you do this. If you're watching a movie, they play this really well. They'll have a bad guy in the movie, but the bad person is the hero of the movie. They call it the anti-hero. And they make you sympathetic toward this bad person who will be the protagonist of the story. And my thought is often, I don't have any sympathy for this guy. He's a bad person. I'm not rooting him on, really. He's a bad person. A great example of that. If there's a popular series of movies, and I'm trying to remember how long have they been putting them out. They've been doing it for quite a while. But, okay, the John Wick movies have been very good movies. I really enjoyed them. They're a lot of fun to watch. But I always keep in mind, if you think about it, there's nobody in those movies that are good people. Nobody. If you're sympathetic and rooting for a certain character, realize everybody in that movie is a despicable human being and a murderer and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so there's no one you should really be in favor of in these movies. There's no one you should look up to or admire. They're fun to watch, but it's a whole anti-hero thing where the anti-hero actually is a bad guy who should be dealt with as a bad guy. So I wasn't sympathetic to John Wick, even though it was fun watching him. But yeah, they put those movies out over a series of years. The point of all of this is there are some people who always blame everything but what should really be blamed for the crime. A few years ago, I remember being on the air telling a story. I think it was in San Diego, California. And it was a young man who started by stabbing his roommate to death, went down the hallway of the apartment building, stabbed somebody else, got in his car, went to the university campus where he was attending a college, and ran over a few people, hopped out of his car and pulled a gun. And that's where a campus police officer who was armed was able to shoot him down before he did too much damage. Now, who gets blamed? Well, according to the media, they called it a gunman and right away went after gun control in their story. Oh. Well, if you're going to go after the objects, what about the knife? What about the car he ran over people with? But better yet, what if we just blame the person and forget what tool they use? Screw the tool they use. I don't care about the mini bikes in New York City. I care about these people, these gangs who came across our border illegally. That's the problem we need to solve. Rick is in Cheyenne. Australia has a ban on knives, and there were 2 mass stabbings in Sydney in just the past couple of weeks. Yeah, and in fact, I know that in the UK, they tried banning knives, writing knife laws, they even tried putting up knife drop boxes. Turn in your knife here, because they did all they could to get rid of guns, and the murder rate went up, not down, because people started stabbing each other. Jedediah on the road. Hey, Glenn, I normally listen to the podcast, so I'm a day behind. Has anybody started a GoFundMe to taser Frank? That would be good. I think, Frank is on vacation right now, but by the time he gets back, we should have a taser for Frank. I'm with you on that one. I-80 John, come on, Glenn, they killed his dog. Yeah, John Wick. I understand after they kill his dog and they wrecked that wonderful car of his. Of course, he did more to wreck his own car than they did. But still, John Wick is a hitman. He's a murderer. So I was never sympathetic to the John Wick character. I love watching the movies. I've watched all of the movies multiple times and loved what they did with him. But I was never sympathetic to the John Wick character. Well, and there's absolutely nobody in that movie who's a good person. Not a single person. Nobody. They all deserve to die, frankly. 7:28's the time. We're coming up on some local news after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back in. You're going to love this story on decolonizing math. Yeah, decolonizing math. I'll explain what that is. It's just stupid. I think you understand already. And then 7:45, Don Day joins us because if you want nice weather, you'll get some for a short while. And then you'll get some crap, and then eventually we'll get some nice weather again. It's just, the weather's schizophrenic, basically. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. I take that as a compliment, DJ. GJ's up in Gillette. She says, I can tell you're having a good show by the number of eye rolls you cause me. Now, here's the answer to that, though. If you're listening to something I'm saying and your eyes roll up in your head, go completely around and come back up from underneath, that's the best show ever. Honestly, decolonizing math. Story says the science department at Australia's most prestigious university is now offering a course on indigenous mathematics in an effort to decolonize math. Or as they say maths, they put an S. And they say maths because, there's geometry and trigonometry and all sorts of different kinds. So that's why they say it that way. Quote, numbers and arithmetic and accounting often are of secondary importance to indigenous mathematics. So what constitutes mathematical knowledge? See, I look at math as quite literally a universal language. So if we were to meet aliens from another planet, somewhere, not illegal aliens from south of the border, but from way off somewhere else, another galaxy, and we wanted to communicate with them, one of the basic ways to communicate is with math. No, they don't use the same number system we do, but 2 + 2 is 4. It's universal. We can communicate through mathematics. It is quite literally a universal thing. All right, so What constitutes mathematical knowledge, the story says? What is included in mathematics? Who gets to decide? There are some of the questions being asked in a growing decolonization movement. Quote, mathematics is a universal human phenomena, and students of underrepresented and minority groups and colonized peoples are starting to be more critical about accepting unquestionably the cultural homogeny of mainstream European-based mathematics. Professor Ball leads a research teaching initiative called Mathematics Without Borders, aimed at broadening and diversifying the cultural base and content of mathematics. Quote, mathematics has been gatekept by the West. No, it hasn't, but okay. And defined to exclude entire cultures. No, it hasn't. Again, 2 + 2 is 4. It doesn't matter what culture you're in. Almost all mathematics that students have ever come across is European-based, she explains. So it means she doesn't know what math is. But anyway, read it on. We would like to enrich the discipline through the inclusion of cross-cultural mathematics. Mathematics has nothing to do with culture. It really does. Indigenous and First Peoples around the world are standing up and saying our knowledge is just as good as anybody. Oh, God. This is also happening in New Zealand, North and South America, and Africa, and other things like that. Okay. So putting all this nonsense aside, I know I don't need to do this with you guys. You get it. But let's just take a look at what is mathematics. Let's say, if I'm running a retail store, I have to keep track of what comes in, how much I paid for it, and how much it goes out for, and also energy consumption. I have to pay attention to that because I got to pay for the energy consumption. What if I'm doing something different? What if I'm trying to decide the age of something? And one of the ways we decide how old something is by how fast certain parts of it, certain molecular parts of it decompose, because certain things decompose at a specific rate. So we know how old something is by taking a look at how certain atoms, molecules even, decompose, at what rate. See, that's math. Okay. It doesn't matter what the culture is, whatever the case. What if you want to measure distance from point A to point B? And you want to do that because you got to figure out if we're going to get from here to there, it's going to take us a certain amount of energy output to do it. You do this when you're driving your car. Do I have enough gas to get there? You got to calculate mileage. You got to calculate weight in order to be able to do things. If I'm going to carry this object from here to there, I'm going to carry it, based on the weight. I have to go ahead and build something that will help me carry this distance, and I'm going to need this much energy to do it, and it's going to weigh this much, so whatever I'm using to haul it has to be able to handle that weight. You see what I'm doing? That's math. And that math doesn't care about your culture. It's numbers. So the idea of we're going to decolonize this because it's been taken over by the West. I would immediately, if I was interested in learning math, not take that course because she's not going to be teaching math.
You know, if you think about it, your belly button is basically just a scar that you got in a knife fight with a guy in a mask after being evicted from your first place.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Live and all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day with Day Weather. Now, Don, I know psychology is not your realm of expertise, but I'm going to ask you to psychologically examine this schizophrenic weather.
Well, this would be the what do they say? If you look at the behavior of the weather and it is acting this way, you would say, well, if you go to the textbook, it would say it's spring.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay, that has become a term. Is there medication for it? Yes, summer. Okay, so now
yeah,
exactly. But let's take a look at this. Because yesterday I started here, and it was a nice, bright, starry morning, And then these clouds moved in, and I thought, well, we're going to get rain today. But that didn't happen, and suddenly I was outside in downtown eating an ice cream.
See? That's spring.
Yeah. Now, today, there's parts of Wyoming, I've already gotten some messages from people up north that are already getting snow.
Yeah, they are getting snow, and they will. That's where it's going to be the snowiest the most, is going to be up in the northern counties of the state this morning, along that I-90 corridor in particular, from Sundance to Gillette, but especially Gillette to Buffalo to Sheridan. Then you go through the Bighorns, they're going to have heavy snow. Then you get on the other side of the Bighorns, there's going to be snow across that northern and western part of the Bighorn Basin around Cody and Meeteetse and up into Yellowstone. That cold air is slowly sagging south and will cover the rest of the state, getting to the northern and central counties first, then the I-80 corridor by late this afternoon and evening. The real significant heavier snow will be in those northern mountains, in those far northern areas. There will be showers elsewhere along and east of the divide, but they'll be lighter in the central and the south.
Okay. Now, central, south, and it looks like, is that wind gone, or are we going to get more of that?
Well, we're not really going to be able to get rid of the wind completely.
Okay.
The wind today is not going to be all that bad along this cold front, but it's April. And as we've already seen, with anytime you have systems coming through, you're going to have episodes of wind. Do I see high winds? No. But I do see nuisance winds.
Okay. On that note, it does get cooler over the next few days. And then all of a sudden on Sunday, there's a bit of a warm-up. And so is it windy then?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to deal with the wind this time of year.
It just do. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, even when it gets nice this time of year, you're going to we get into southwest flow, especially Sunday. Mm-hmm. But you got to remember, when that wind direction changes and we start to see those southwest winds, that's a warmer pattern. So if you're going to get warmer, you're going to get a little windy.
I would say, because of the way the weather's changing so fast, for the next week or so, just delete the weather app on your phone.
Yeah, don't go past day 2.
Don't even. All right, thank you, Don. Don Day with it. Yeah, it's changing every couple of minutes out there. But you know the old saying, you've heard it before. So, okay, head on over to Laramie, Wyoming, where waiting down there is our sports guy, David Settle, who's filling in for Frank Gambino right now. Okay, Dave, I take you on another little adventure here. There's a guy who just travels around the country. I don't know why, but, it looks like business anyway. And he's got a really fun little YouTube page that absolutely nobody watches, right? Called Someplace or Another. And he just goes into areas and goes, hey, let's walk around and take a look at it. So he had never been to Wyoming before, and he was in Rawlins and got really confused when he saw deer just walking through downtown and nobody cared.
But he did.
He did. His words. Okay, this might be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I think, guess you haven't.
It's the West, man. I don't know what to tell him.
I really don't. That's not trust me, that's if you've only been in Wyoming for maybe an hour, hang out for another hour, because that is not the weirdest thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not in this state. It's not. But yeah, the deer were just two of them. Guy and a girl. They're just kind of wandering through downtown. And there were not a lot of people in downtown Rawlins, but those people who were there just really didn't even blink, didn't even care. The deer walked right by them. They walked right by the deer, whatever. And he just went on about his boring little video. Oh, there is a furniture store in downtown. They put up a sign in their window. It's in his video. Booby trap, spelled backwards, is party boob. I don't know why you would put that there. Now, that might be the weirdest thing that you've ever seen in Wyoming.
Well, sometimes you got to just entertain yourself in Wyoming.
I would have to say to this gentleman, who I thought was a really nice guy, and he had nothing bad to say about Rawlins at all, is he went to the original Little America, the one on the other side of the state, right, western side of the state, and did the entire video walking around the truck stop and looking at the convenience store inside to see what was for sale. And I would say that's why your videos get like 10 views. Okay, pal?
All right, thank you very much, Glenn. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully your Wednesday's going well so far. Well, the college transfer portal for football players opened on Monday, and 3 Wyoming players have entered the college football's version of free agency. Quarterback Carson May announced he'd be leaving the program Monday as he was joined by running back Tyler Jacklich and cornerback Josh Dixon. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, who are these people? Well, don't worry. 2 of them never played a down for the Cowboys, and 1 played in 3 games and made 1 tackle last fall. So Cowboys really not losing a lot of production there. Carson May was actually the quarterback on the 4th team in the scrimmage last Saturday. Jacklich is just buried in a deep running back room right now, and cornerback Josh Dixon, all of them currently in the NCAA transfer portal, which runs through April 30th. Jeff Linder and the Wyoming men's basketball program with 3 new additions lately. Obi Agbim, a 6'3", 180-pound guard, transferring from Fort Lewis College. That was where Aquel Cott came from. He was a first-team All-South Central Region member, first-team All-Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and the conference tournament MVP for the Skyhawks last season. Tyree Ianacho, 6'4", 190-pound guard, will have 1 season of eligibility left. He's coming from North Dakota, averaged 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 4 assists per game. He was second-team All-Summit League. And then Matija Belic, a 6'7", 205-pound wing from Serbia, is transferring from UC Santa Barbara. 2 years of eligibility. He played in 29 games this past season with 9 starts, averaged 4 points, about 3 rebounds per game. So those are the new additions to the Cowboy basketball program. And our own Cody Tucker's got more on all of this at 7220sports.com and on the 7220sports.com app. In high school softball yesterday, Kelly Walsh picked up a big conference win, beating crosstown rival Natrona County 13-5. The Trojans scored 4 runs in the second to take the lead for good. Kayla Clare had 3 hits, including a double and drove in 3. Tavia Osa had 2 hits and 4 RBIs. Ashlyn Attaway added 3 hits and 2 RBIs. The second game, well, they matched scoring and ended up in a 4-4 tie. How does that happen? Well, they were tied at 4 when the time limit expired after the 6th inning. So Kelly Walsh now 5-9-1 on the season, 2-3 in conference play. Natrona is 10-3-2 overall, 3-2 in conference play. Central at Laramie, South at East got postponed yesterday. Cheyenne Central and Cheyenne South moved their game from Thursday up to today. And the Rockies lost again in Philadelphia last night, 5-0 to the Phillies, dropping to 4-14 on the season. Game 3, that series is at 4 o'clock Mountain Time this afternoon in Philadelphia, and that's your sports this hour.
I just remember my advice. I mean, I'm not the sports guy. It's your segment there. But if you save us all a lot of time and grief and just tell us when the Rockies win. Because it's like, man bites dog. It's one of those headlines. Joking.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. And then I got a whole lot of comments coming in. Bob and Cheyenne, Bill and Casper, and a bunch of other people, including Miss Mary, on the math is racist bit. We got to finish that conversation. We'll do that next. Wake up, Wyoming. 6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. If you missed the first hour of the program, don't worry. This program becomes a podcast when it's over. So you use your Wake Up Wyoming app, which is free, and you just touch on demand and then Wake Up Wyoming, select the episode you want. And the show is condensed to get rid of news, sports, most commercials, weather, and that way you can just get to the meat of the program. What you missed the first hour is this. So, yeah, your Wyoming Power Company, Rocky Mountain, wants to go ahead and increase rates again, this time by 12.3%. We went through the reasons why they want to do that. And yes, a lot of it does have to do with the Biden administration and why energy prices and prices of everything else keep going up. So there's that. Then in New York City, there's the illegal immigrant gangs who found out that riding around on little motor scooters helps them to commit crimes easier because they can get away, and it's very difficult to follow someone through all that traffic if they're riding motor scooters. So the answer is not to deal with the people or get rid of illegal aliens or anything like that. They're arresting the motor scooters. Yeah, that was the thing. And then finally, and this is what I'm going to cover because it's got a whole conversation started. So we're going to go back and take a look at it and finish off the conversation. Apparently, we have to decolonize math because math can be racist.
Today's show is sponsored by Roadkill frozen dinners. Just as fresh as when you creamed them with your truck the first time. And now with armadillo bites.
Cream them with your truck, then make cream of something with them in your kitchen. Now, it is open phones. That's dangerous. I know that.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. That's really gross, Corey, and thank you for sending it to me. I appreciate it. Corey from Nebraska, we're talking about the cicada story. This is one of those things where it's not because of climate change, those of you who are hosting The View. The cicada is the insect that for one species every 13 years, for the other 17 years, they wake up, they become adults, basically. They mate and die right afterwards. And that makes a whole bunch of new ones. And it's really a noisy process in cicada language, you hear a bunch of squeaking and squawking. Basically, what's happening is they're going, hey, baby, how you doing? That's basically what's happening in cicada language. Well, Corey sent me a cicada recipe since they want us to eat bugs to save the planet. So here's how you make deep-fried cicadas. All right, let's get back to the math thing. So the story has to do, we went down to Australia for this. The science department at Australia's most prestigious university, which I would say formerly the most prestigious university, because if they're doing this garbage, they're not prestigious anymore. They're now offering a course on indigenous mathematics in an effort to decolonize math. Numbers and arithmetic and accounting are often secondary of importance. And it goes through how it's a gatekeeper. Mathematics has been gatekept by the West, those colonizing countries. And they've excluded entire cultures in math. And so we have to decolonize math. Then I came across this story here during the news and information break. Modern mathematics confronts its white patriarchal past. When this woman here at Mathematics, Southwestern University, came to U.S. College, she was taken aback. During the first 2 years, she underwent the program, whose research focus was dynamics and geometry. She kept wondering, why is no one treating me like I'm good at learning things, she said. Well, it's white, it's patriarchal, it's that kind of, okay. We're going to get into what really math is, but I'd like you to listen to this. This is from the Toronto Sun, the newspaper, the Toronto Sun. And here is a reporter talking about this.
Perhaps you saw my front page story in the Toronto Sun showcasing that saying 2 + 2 = 4 is also a form of white supremacy. How does this sort of thing come about? Well, back in 2021, the Ontario Ministry of Education came out with a new math curriculum. Within that math curriculum were some questionable comments, such as this, that math had been used to normalize racism and marginalizations of non-Eurocentric mathematical knowledges. That is what was in the curriculum back in 2021. After the Sun reported on it, the Ministry of Education, Stephen Lecce, the minister, had it removed. Premier Doug Ford was asked about it at the time and had this to say.
We need to focus on financial literacy. We need to focus on coding. These are real things that kids are going to have to learn to get a job in the future. So in math, let's stick with math. Other social issues, let's talk about it. There's no doubt.
So we'll get into that in just a minute. First, you're allowed to interrupt me when it's open phones. Mike is in Casper. Hello, Mike.
Yes, I got a great idea with Trump having his trial, and he can't leave the state now. They've told him, they're. I think he should get a Trump impersonator and show up at his son's graduation.
Oh, not bad idea.
And then he could even advance on that. He has all these other trials. He could hire a couple impersonators to go around doing his what do you call it when he's going around giving the speeches.
Okay, you're now entering the realm of like Elvis impersonators, but Trump.
Yes, I mean, but he's got all these trials coming up. He can't be at the trials.
No, he can't.
And be doing and being trying to do what do they call it when they for the campaigning? Oh, campaigning. Yeah. He can't do everything.
Okay.
He had to hire like 3 Trump impersonators and they campaign for him.
No, I think this is a brilliant idea. If we can do decades of Elvis impersonators, then we can have Trump impersonators too, and that will really drive all of the right people nuts.
Oh, it'll drive them nuts. And you've talked to him before. I don't know if you can get the message through to him in time or not.
Yep. All right. I'm glad you're out there thinking, Mike. This is what's on your brain today, huh?
Thank you. Yes, I just come up with that last night.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. You now see what you do with your time. All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Mike calling in from Casper. Let's get back to the whole math thing here. So as I was talking about math, Miss Mary starts dropping. If you don't mind me, Miss Mary, reading your comments here. Let's see. Do they have examples about how to decolonize math, she says. I'm confused as to what that actually looks like. Are certain numbers whiter than other numbers? And I said, yeah, me too. Like the number 12 seems racist to me. Is 9 racist? Because I've always kind of thought it might be. And I said, oh, it is. Don't use 9. Okay, so she was glad we had this conversation. Then I started to wonder, well, if math is racist, then there's certain numbers. I have a computer keypad right in front of me. First thing I need to do is rip off the number 9 and destroy it. And then between addition and subtraction and, just basically plus and minus and multiplication, what numbers could add up to 9? Those numbers have to go too. Then I have to take a look at the keyboard for the letters. How can I spell 9? Yeah, because that's got to be racist too, right? Now, some of the other comments we got here, Bob is in Cheyenne. Didn't the Egyptians need to use math to build pyramids? Because the last I checked, Egyptians weren't colonizers. No, not really. They were locally, but not internationally. I mean, they did take over a lot of local tribes, but all right. Let's see, Bill in Casper. Glenn, maybe there's these people were tired of using their fingers and toes to count. Want to go back to an abacus? Well, yeah. Mike, when I was in the jungles of South America, there was a tribe I met. They used high math, 1, 2, and many. Oh, okay. But you see, here's the thing, though. Let's take a look at because the whole idea that math can be racist, and because you white people have been dominating it for so long, here's what it really comes down to. Math is a tool, and it doesn't care not just what race you are, but even if you're human or not. Even if you're alive or not, it doesn't matter. Math is a tool. That's why I said earlier, when it comes to, let's say we were to finally meet aliens from another planet, not aliens from south of the border, but aliens from another planet. And by aliens from another planet, I don't mean Democrats. I mean, no, way out, okay? And we want to communicate with them. They want to communicate with us. The first thing we would do is use math because it's a universal language. The numbers are the same. We don't write the numbers the same, but numbers are the same and do the same thing no matter where you are in the universe. It is quite literally a universal language. Okay, 2 + 2 is 4 cannot be racist. It can't be. There's no such thing. But now here's what I would, if I could have my way. If I was running, let's say, a college or a high school, okay, I'm the dean, the administrator, the principal, whatever the case is, and one of my teachers said something like this, that math could be racist and needs to be decolonized, I would get rid of that teacher immediately. Obviously, this person should not be around kids. I mean, obviously.
If I manage to make it through this week, I would like my straitjacket to be black leather and my helmet to sparkle. Thank you.
And we're back. Sorry, we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97 WOODS. Okay, I got a lot of the news I have today is just people who either are sane, stupid, or a little bit of both. I don't know where you classify some of these people. All right, here's the headline. Many workers considering quitting their jobs due to lack of pet benefits. Yes, pet, as in your pet benefits. The story says the great resignation may be over, but plenty of pet parents are still leaving their offices in favor of their furry friends. A recent survey reveals that about 7% of people have taken bold steps of leaving their jobs in pursuit of greener pastures and the promise of a better life. And for some of them, it was over their pet. Not all of them, but for some of them. But another 24% are teetering on the edge, contemplating a leap of their own to ensure their pet receives the care and attention they deserve. I know more people take their pets to work, which I'm fine with. I don't mind. I think it depends on where you work, of course, but in some places, having a little puppy or kitten around or something like that can actually be kind of fun. I think it's nice. But all right. So welcome to the area where paws and claws, the story says, are rewriting the rules of professional priorities. In fact, 60% agree they would consider leaving their job if it conflicted with their ability to care for their pet. According to a survey, about 41% would even be willing to take a pay cut to work in a pet-friendly environment. Only 39% of respondents believe they are currently working in a pet-friendly environment workplace. Another 47% say they have high priorities when it comes to choosing to work. Is, what do you think about pets? Well, again, we have someone here, our sales manager here. She brings her puppy to work. That's fine. Results find that employees would be... I wonder if you owned... Okay, if you work on a ranch and you brought your horse to work, it makes sense. But if you work in an office and studio like this, don't bring your horse to work. All right. Especially in the radio studios for KGAB in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which you have to get on an elevator to go upstairs. Nobody wants the horse on the elevator. Well, maybe somebody does. All right. Results find that employees are more open to working in the office if pets were allowed to come, and it talks about the numbers for that. Okay, so that may be because 22% of hybrid working pet owners admit that when at the office, they're stressed about their pet at home. Well, according to Miss Mary, well, it's one of those tiny horses. Yes, one of the tiny horses will fit just fine in the elevator. I was thinking of one of the big Clydesdales. That's just not going to work out. And then can you, if you will, office train your horse? I mean, because when a horse unloads, man, it unloads. So you need to have that. You need to think about that. We have to take a look at what size animal are we talking about. And then how noisy. Can you bring your parakeet to work? Okay, so pet owners are showing that pets are family, which is true, their ability to care for the animals in the modern workplace, and it goes on and on from there. But okay. When it comes to workers considering quitting due to lack of pet benefits, part of the benefits, though, would be taking care of your pet, as in financial benefits for your animal, in which case that's entirely up to you, I think. Let's see. Little box. Get a little box. Giant. So you want basically, okay, do you think you can teach your horse how to use a litter box like a cat? Is that what you're saying, Miss Mary? Now what we're getting at, okay, now, wait, hold on. I now realize what we're really getting at here is Miss Mary wants a pony. She would be perfectly fine with that. She has and it didn't start this way. Her office is like the biggest office in the building. It used to be filled with other people, but those people have moved on, and now she's all that's left. So let's get rid of the video games. There are video games in her office and other desks and cubicles. Get rid of all of that. And instead, we turn it into just a barn. Would you like that, Miss Mary? We turn your entire office into a barn. We can put chickens and miniature horses in there. You can have some kittens and puppies running around. And she's not going to get any work done, but at least we can turn the whole place into a barn. How about that? All right. Look, I love animals. I love pets myself. The reason I don't currently own a pet right now is because I know I don't spend most of my time at home. That's the first thing. And I think it's wrong to have a pet and leave it at home for really extended periods of time. That's just not good. I also don't like it. I have a house, but it's small. And there's really no yard to it. So I don't like the idea of having a pet if the pet can't go out. I never did like the idea of, hey, I live in a small apartment and I have a pet that's stuck inside. Yeah, I never did like that. I like having space for the animal to get out and do what they do. Run around and play and stuff like that. So that's my thought. But yeah, I don't mind the idea of having, when you consider the job, to have a pet at work, because some jobs you just can't. But I like the idea that our sales manager downstairs, she has this cute little dog, and she brings the dog to work with her, and sometimes the dog runs up and down the hall. We used to have an engineer who would bring his dog to work now and then, and I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But yeah, some people really do stress out of that, and they're willing to quit their jobs if they're not able to take care of their animal because their animals become such a big part of their life. All right. I'm trying to stay away from the real serious topic. Chet and Yoder. I taught a guy who would ride his horse to work. It was a very good horse, too. Really? Okay. I can see it. It used to be just a couple of generations ago, young people rode their horses to school. That was about the only way to get to school back then, is you saddle up and you went, right? And then there were those other people who walked to school in the snow uphill both ways. There were those, of course. Coming up on Local News Update on your weather forecast, we get back into a nice long segment of open phones. I got a couple of more serious topics for you next time around. Wake up, Wyoming.
Friday.
Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030
any kind of
K2 Radio.
Overshadow what reality is. Okay, there is reality, and then there's what people want to believe, and a lot of times what people want to believe confuses reality. So, having said, I'm not going to get too deep on this. Instead, we're going to go back real quick because once again, they're suffering the consequences in California of raising the minimum wage.
Minimum wage! Yeah!
Now, they've done this before. And every time they've done this, it's had bad consequences. Every time. And yet their ideology refuses to let them learn the lesson. They keep preaching at us that raising the minimum wage is good, but they refuse to actually look at what happens when they do raise the minimum wage. In fact, I'm wondering, let me see, before I go ahead and play this or read this to you, I did have a young lady who, there's Mike Rowe, there, pardon me while I take a look at this. Here we go. Here is a restaurant manager from a California restaurant chain, and the chain is now out of business. As soon as they raised the minimum wage, a whole bunch of people lost their jobs.
I can see their intentions with increasing the minimum wage, thinking that it will attract more people, but I honestly don't think it'll work. This is not the first business that's closing. There's already a few local businesses for me that are closing, so I feel like this is just only the beginning.
Okay, she's out of work. A whole lot of other people are out of work, too, in California, and it happened as soon as the minimum wage was raised. Here's the latest. California wage hike means more automation and higher prices. Well, duh. Gosh, you didn't see that coming, did you? So, okay, I'm not going to try to pronounce this person's name, I'll just destroy it. But it's a fast food franchisor who owns 180 Burger Kings, Taco Bells, and Popeyes locations. He is scrambling to get hold of as many self-service kiosks as he can to stay in business. You see, he cannot afford to keep all of the employees that he's had working there. So instead, he's going to automate as much as he can so he can keep his businesses open. Now, years ago, quite a few years ago, I think probably about 10 years ago, is when I wrote the bit that I'm about to play for you. I keep thinking I need to update, and I do. I need to update it into modern times. But I'd like you to hear the original bit, because this goes back to what I'm talking about now. They haven't learned this lesson. Way back then, a decade ago, I was saying, folks, all you're going to do is help the American Automation Association.
Have you ever heard of the American Automation Association? Oh, probably not. We're a company that produces high-quality automation systems, the kind that replace employees, thus saving corporations lots of money and increasing their personal profits. Now, no doubt you've seen some of our inventions every day. The self-serve automated checkout at the grocery store, thus saving money on checkout clerks. The self-serve gas pump, that was us too. No need for an attendant. The ATM machine at your local bank. Yep, that was us. And so many more gadgets that are behind the scenes that you may not even know about, like the automation machine at this very radio station that eliminates the need for a full-time employee to man the board. On behalf of the American Automation Association, we would like to thank the Democrat Party for pushing a minimum wage increase up to $15 an hour. Each time the minimum wage is increased, we at the AAA get more business from companies looking to get rid of their lower wage employees and replace them with automation. A $15 an hour minimum wage increase would be a boom for our business. Also, thanks for heaping piles of rules and regulations on local companies as well, and taxes and Obamacare. Thanks to socialism, business at American Automation is booming.
It's about a decade old. That's why it says $15 an hour. Now they're at $20 an hour. It'll go up from there. But let me read that part again, though. This gentleman who has fast food franchise, he has 180 between different locations, between Burger King, Taco Bell, Popeye locations. All right. So he's in California and struggling to find kiosk machines and other automation machines to replace his employees. He says the changes are necessary. He employs about 3,700 fast food workers in California. Quote, the wage increase has significantly raised our labor costs. Our first payroll wage hike will be on April 15th, so it's Monday, and that'll be 25% higher than it was last month. Undoubtedly, we will lose people. There's no way around it. If we continue to maintain our current menu pricing and absorb the higher labor costs, 100% of our restaurants will not be profitable. We can't raise menu prices because that will hurt traffic. And we've already seen the media backlash from customers. And if you've noticed, I have too. I told you guys this just recently. Every so often I would leave work and I would think, hey, I'm going to go get myself, and I would go to some little fast food joint and get like a Subway, and get like a 6-inch tuna on wheat. I like it with just some tomato, onion, and spinach on there. That's it. A little bag of Sun Chips and a small drink. And that used to be around $4-ish. Last time I did it, it was $19. I'm not doing that anymore. And there's a restaurant that I like to go to. It's just a family restaurant in Cheyenne. And I had a very basic breakfast here with some friends just last weekend. And I looked at how much the bill was, and I said, you got to be kidding me. You're charging me that much. And I don't blame the restaurant. So they can't really raise prices anymore because they're losing customers like me, who I like to do stuff like that, but I'm just not going to do it. It's just the prices are outrageous now, so never mind. Trying to find ways not to spend all that much money. I'm just trying to find whatever I can do to not spend all that much money. So this guy can't raise his prices, so he has no choice. He has to start getting rid of them. Some employees are going to have fewer hours, but at least they'll still be employed. Other employees are just going to lose their jobs altogether. Now, if you're wondering, between kiosks for people to order at and automation in the back, how does this stuff actually work?
Now, basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magneto-reluctance and capacitive directance.
Okay.
The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan.
I had a Pan
The
American
lineup consisted
once.
simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal veins,
Marsal veins?
fitted to
You
the
get those when you're
antefacient
older.
lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented.
Side fumbling sucks.
The main winding was of the normal lotus O deltoid type placed
Deltoids.
in
Have you worked
panendermic
on your deltoids? You go
semi-boloid
to the
slots
gym?
of the stator. Every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring
Can you
on
say
the up
girdle
end of the
spring on
gram
the air?
meters.
I'm sure you can.
Moreover, whenever fluorescent score motion is required, it may also be employed in conjunction with a drawn reciprocation dingle arm to
Dingle
reduce
arm,
sinusoidal
another thing you can't say on
degeneration.
the air. You
The
can't say
retroencabulator has now reached a high level of development, and it's being successfully used in the operation of Milford trunnions.
Yes.
It's available soon.
Oh, gosh.
Wherever Rockwell Automation products are sold.
If you'd like to see one of these systems in operation, just go to a fast food restaurant where they're charging, the state, like California, $20 an hour minimum wage. And there you can see one of those operations. You wouldn't see people anymore. Oh, by the way, the governor of California, who's in favor of this $20 an hour minimum wage, he owns, I don't know if you knew this, he owns several restaurants, but they're not fast food restaurants. And none of his restaurants have the number of employees necessary because in order to be under the law for a $15 or $20 an hour minimum wage, the restaurant or the company has to employ a certain number of people. Well, the governor falls under that. Therefore, none of his employees get $20 an hour. The hypocrite. 846, wait.
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS.
8:49 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming off. We go to talk to David Settle, who's in for Frank Gambino. Frank, I was just talking about restaurant employees, and a friend of mine in Cheyenne, Wyoming, who owns a restaurant, sent me a video of a robot waiter.
Are you serious?
Yes. Now, don't think of somebody walking up like a robot walking with arms and legs and all that. This thing is, it's got, remember the TARDIS? That thing from, I'm trying to remember the name of those evil creatures that were in Doctor Who. The robots that were taking over the world.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Looks like those, but with tray tables. That's scary, right? Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah. And so this means, first off, that means I don't have to tip, right?
No.
Until the thing becomes sentient, then it's going to start demanding things.
I guess it could.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I still wouldn't tip.
If I want the real restaurant experience, I would like it to still get my order wrong and deliver the food cold. Or it's just not the real experience.
There you go.
Makes sense? Okay. And then I think it really is a problem. Sometimes, Dave, you and I like to go to restaurants because they have really cute waitresses.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Well, okay. What are you going to do with a robot wait? I mean, doesn't it sort of take that away?
Nothing. Can I demand a human experience?
Hey, that would be good. The robot pulls up.
Isn't that wait? Yeah, wouldn't that be kind of like, nowadays you don't always get water automatically? Remember back in the day, they used to always bring water to your table. Now everyone, depending upon where you go, some places still do, some don't, but you have to ask for water. So can I ask for a human waiter?
Okay, but see, that's discriminatory, and then they're going to run you out, okay?
Oh, that's actually a good point. All right, thank you very much, Glenn. Let's talk a little high school softball. Big one between crosstown rivals on Tuesday. Kelly Walsh beating Natrona County in the conference game 13-5. A 4-run second inning helped the Trojans take the lead for good. Kayla Clare had 3 hits, including a double, and drove in 3 to lead Kelly Walsh. Tavia Osa had 2 hits and 4 RBIs. Ashlyn Attaway 3 hits and 2 RBIs as Kelly Walsh picks up a valuable conference win against their crosstown rival, the Phillies. Game 2 ended up in a 4-4 tie, and the reason why is, they were tied when the time limit expired, and so they just finished the inning, and it was done. So Kelly Walsh now 5-9-1 on the season, 2-3 in conference action. Natrona 10-3-2 overall, 3-2 in conference play. Those two teams will go on the road to Rock Springs and Green River Friday and Saturday. Obviously, weather permitting, it is spring high school sports in Wyoming. Meanwhile, Central at Laramie and South at East on Tuesday were postponed, and Cheyenne Central will play Cheyenne South today. That game was scheduled for tomorrow, but they moved it up to try and beat the weather, and so we'll see if they can do just that. Legion baseball from this past weekend. Yes, some teams started their season, including the Cheyenne Sixers and Cheyenne Hawks. Sixers shut out Colorado Travelers twice, 13-0 and 25-0 on Saturday. The Hawks beat the Travelers 15-9 and 12-5. Those two teams will host Laramie and Rock Springs for the Cheyenne Icebreaker Tournament coming up Saturday and Sunday at Powers Field in Cheyenne. And then, of course, we're scheduled to have a spring golf event, but the Cheyenne South Invite got wiped away and canceled because of the weather yesterday in the capital city. University of Wyoming Cowboy football team is through 10 practices of spring drills out of the 15 they get. How are things going? Head coach Jay Savell says things are going well, but we still have work to do.
We got a really good work ethic among our players right now. I mean, this was more plays than what we've went in a scrimmage since I've been here. I know at one point we were bumping 50 with the ones and twos, and that's without the third group. That's a pretty healthy day. A lot of times guys are in the mid 20s and low 30s or something, and we were a lot more above that. So I love the way that we're working. We just got to get better at a lot of stuff, and there's some things new offensively. You got a new quarterback, you got mechanics of things. You're unproven at receiver, so you got younger guys there. It's just we just got to have work. That's my takeaway right now. We got work to do.
And the Cowboys will have another practice session on Thursday. It all leads up to the spring game, which will be the 27th of April in Cheyenne at East High School's Oakey Blanchard Stadium. And even though you just mentioned when they win, the Rockies did lose to the Phillies yesterday in Big League Baseball 5-0. They dropped the 4-14 game 3. The final of that 3-game series is this afternoon just after 4 o'clock Mountain Time. That's your sports this hour.
See, you could shorten it by saying the Rockies played baseball yesterday. You don't need to tell us what happened. We all know.
Yeah. Okay, so just when they win.
Yes, the Rockies played yesterday.
Yeah. I'll surprise you with something tomorrow.
Okay.
How about that?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Or maybe Friday.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. .06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. We're into the open phone segment. Going to get into Rocky Mountain Power again for those people who missed it. First hour of the program, because once again, they're asking for a rate hike.
Today's show is sponsored by Roadkill Frozen Dinners. Just as fresh as when you creamed them with your truck the first time. And now with armadillo bites.
So you cream them with your truck the first time, and then you take that and you make cream of something with it.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, let's go back to Rocky Mountain Power real quick. I talked about it first hour of the program, but for those who are joining me a little bit later, Rocky Mountain Power in Wyoming wants another 12.3% rate increase. Now, the reason why they give, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of this, is they are saying, well, the cost of energy is going up in the sense of if we want coal for a coal plant, well, that energy is going up. You want natural gas? Well, natural gas is more expensive. A lot of fluctuations in the market. Now, you're right. Recently, they did ask for a 30% rate increase. They ended up getting 8.3%. Now they're asking for a 12.3%. And I know they're not going to get all of that, but it's basically, again, Reader's Digest version, same idea. It's because we'll take a look at all the fluctuating energy costs, and we gotta pay for this. Well, okay. I have another story here that shows the Bureau of Land Management has been trying to pass rules, which is lawmaking through the bureaucracy. The Bureau of Land Management is trying to pass rules which would just really decimate the oil and natural gas industries. And, of course, the Biden administration has not been really all that kind to the coal industry either. So that's part of what raises your energy prices. And those energy prices keep going up and up, which translates to your electricity prices too. And things like carbon sequestration don't help either. And of course, if the Biden administration and the bureaucracy want to deny that they're causing your utility rates to skyrocket, and trying to go wind and solar just makes it even worse, because those things they're not clean, they're not green, they're not affordable, they're not sustainable, they're not reliable. I mean, really, they're outrageously expensive. I keep hearing people trying to sell us on the idea, but they're cheaper. No, they're not. They're more expensive. But let's remember what President Biden said when he was running for president.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure? And
no new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels. I've argued against any more oil drilling or gas drilling on federal lands. No one's going to build a coal-fired plant again, and we're going to get rid of the ones we have now. Have a transition from the oil industry, yes.
Would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes.
And that's why, in large part, your energy prices keep going up. Off to the phones. Rose is in Casper. Morning, Rose.
Good morning, Glenn.
Yes.
Jude and I went down to the county commissioner meeting last night for the senior citizen resolution. They passed it.
Okay.
To become a resolution for the people to have the vote on the ballot. But you're talking about taxes going up. Well, people really need to understand that this will make property taxes go up.
Right.
And state statute is allowing them to collect 2 mills. Last night I asked for this to be tabled because in their whole packet of information, they didn't tell us what is in their reserve budget. And I also asked that they consider putting an amendment on the resolution that this would have a 2 to 3 year sunset or a cap on how much could be put into this reserve to stop it from becoming one of the many slush funds in Wyoming that's causing us this property taxation burden.
Right. And all of that was just shot down. They didn't bite any of that?
Yeah, it was shut down. In fact, I got the mic shut off on me, Glenn.
Okay. Well, here's what happens then. This then is going to go on to the ballot. So we have to be aware of what to look for when it pops up on the ballot so people can vote on it.
Absolutely. But that's what the point I was trying to make to the commissioners last night, that you're now we elect them to be our representatives, and they're now putting this burden on the people to educate and inform. And there's 2 things going to be on this ballot. Both need to be voted no to, in my opinion, because I was quoted in Oil City News. You could look that up later. But anyway, there's going to be a 4th separate class amendment for property taxes. I'll talk to you about that at some other point, but that needs to be voted no to right along with this.
Okay. So now we have to wait till election time for this to be put on the ballot. So expect a campaign to come out because, usually when they want something like this, even though it's government, they start some kind of an advertisement campaign.
Oh, yeah. And it's not that I don't support the people. I want people to really understand that. I mean, that's why I tried so hard to get property tax relief and reform. It's the seniors that we need to be taken care of. But when you create a problem in government and then try to throw more money at it to fix the situation that you created, that is not helping the seniors. If they lose their homes and they can't afford their groceries and they can't afford to pay Rocky Mountain Power, this all compounds, and it's not helping them.
Right. I think also at a time, we just got through a big fight here in the state of Wyoming. In fact, we're not done with it, over trying to figure out how to solve the property tax problem as property taxes keep going up and up. And one of those counties that was having a problem with it was, well, the one you're in. And so for them, I think it's a little tone deaf to say, well, let's add something to the property taxes.
Yeah. Isn't that?
I would think so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Good point.
Okay. Well, that's what I do, Rose.
Have a good day.
I sit here and make good points all morning. All right. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate it. All right. So watch for that on the ballot. And for those people in Natrona County, basically it has to do with the senior center. But in order to do it, the county wants to go ahead and raise something on the property tax. But they can't raise it on the property tax. And this is one thing I like about the state of Wyoming. You, the voters in Natrona County, get to decide this. You get to look this up. This is why I say do your homework. Never show up on election day and just guess. Do your homework so you know what's on there. So you can decide whether you want to raise this tax or not. It's up to the people to decide. Thankfully, not up to the county commission.
Can I have a turkey and cheese sandwich? Hey, Frankie, cut the bird's titties off, make it do a somersault. You want mayo on that? Yeah. Make it racist. Please don't. Put the camera on silent. Juggle it. What? Nothing. You want oil and vinegar? I get. Down, down, left, right, left, right. That a cheat code.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first.
Friday.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. And let me see Jan and Cheyenne. Morning, Jan. She says, I ordered stamps from the Postal Service. Took 12 days. Priority mail to get them. Real quick, I see you, Mary. I'm going to get to you real quick. A friend of mine ordered something. It was a part they needed, electronic part. And it went from whatever state it was made in to Colorado to California, back to Colorado, back to California, back to Colorado, up to Wyoming. Yeah, they're so efficient. Morning, Mary.
Good morning. I was just thinking about the efficiency of our government. You know, it's not really our government, isn't the post office a little government all by itself?
Yeah.
But now they must be in cahoots, because why else would they do all of this unnecessary stuff so that all of the mail-in ballots in a little tiny place like Wyoming could get passed on.
You're thinking, okay, so you're thinking our mail-in ballots, I hadn't thought about that, have to go all the way to another state and come back.
Yeah, and they could go anywhere because, you know, nothing says that the mailman that takes them out of here knows where Denver is. They could go to Timbuktu.
Okay. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's what we're thinking about. All right, thank you.
If we're the only state that's getting revamped or something, then maybe that's an insurance policy for some other states.
Okay. All right.
Makes me wonder.
Let's look. Yeah, it's worth thinking about. All right, thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. She's got a point. For those who worry about mail-in ballots, what about the fact that you want election integrity? Okay, so we got to mail the ballots all the way out of the state. I'm not a tin hatter here, but I'm thinking you got to mail the ballots. She's right, all the way out of the state. And then you got to come all the way back. And could something have been fiddled with? So for those people who worry about stuff like that, yeah. All right, slightly different topic. Let me just switch gears for just a moment. And as you know, we are living, according to the cult of climate change, in the end times.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
So the first story I have, and these are just a couple of quickie ones here. Climate change is driving impoverished Californians to use predatory payday loans to pay energy bills. That's the headline. And they assume in the headline that all payday loans are predatory, but they're not. But okay. Yes, they can be. I talked to some people who ran some payday loans, and you'd be really interested in the way they run their businesses and why. They're not all bad, but all right. A study connects heat waves and cold snaps to surges in payday lending, keeping people in debt because they have to borrow money to pay their energy bills. Yeah, through payday loans. Okay, now notice what they're not blaming. How about California government doing all it can to raise energy prices so high that there's no way these people can afford to pay their bills? And what if instead we work to lower our energy prices, and we can do that by using things like natural gas and coal and not wind and solar and other things that raise our prices? Chris wants to talk about the post office. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Good.
I think one of my favorite people in history is Lysander Spooner.
Mm-hmm.
And, because he was trying to, I think he went to the Supreme Court or something like that, because he was trying to create competition with the post office and was going to be able to do it for cheaper.
Of course he would, yeah.
Do you remember Lysander?
I vaguely remember that, but I do think that, yeah, private companies can do it a whole lot more efficient and a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, so it has been tried, but they wouldn't let him. So anyway, if somebody wants to look that up, it's kind of funny and interesting.
All right. Yeah, because I'm in favor of entirely getting rid of the post office at this point and just letting private enterprise take over, like we did with the phone system.
Yeah.
And look at where we are with telephones now.
Telephones, cable, internet. I mean, search engines. I mean, it.
As soon as we got,
if you can, anything. Like if you can come up with a better comb.
Sure.
People are going to buy it.
Yeah. If we got government out of the energy industry, wow, we could have affordable, reliable energy again.
We could have affordable energy. We could have affordable vehicles again.
Sure. Affordable food at the grocery store, why not?
Get the government away from creating their own monopoly with money, and maybe a dollar would be worth a dollar.
All right. Thank you for calling, Chris. Appreciate it.
They have no real purpose, but it makes you smile when you push them down a flight of stairs.
Okay, I'm going to play that again because it didn't start properly, and you need to hear that. It's a Slinkies analogy.
Some people are like slinkies.
There you go.
They have no real purpose, but it makes you smile when you push them down a flight of stairs.
He's not a politician, but his pants are on fire. Could someone grab an extinguisher? Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:48 to time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to David Settles in for Frank Ambino. So we're getting kind of a rain and snow mix where I am here. What's the weather like down where you are in Laramie?
It is very cloudy. The wind has really cooled things off. Like when I got to work this morning, it wasn't too terrible, but the clouds have started to move in. Nothing precipitation-wise just yet, but based on Don Day's weather forecast, we'll get hit with some different things in the next few days, it sounds
like. Okay. Having said that, I'm actually going somewhere for once with this, David. So there have been some shuffling around of some Wyoming sporting events because of this.
Okay.
No, you said that.
Yes. Yes. So one of them was there's a softball game in Cheyenne that was originally scheduled for tomorrow. That got pushed up to today because they're trying to beat this weather that might be worse in the Cheyenne area Thursday and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a track meet in Afton, Wyoming, all the way out to Star Valley, extreme west Wyoming. They were supposed to have it today. They pushed it back to tomorrow, trying to get it in. There was a golf event that was supposed to go tomorrow that was canceled. There was one up around the Sheridan area for golf that was scheduled for Friday. It's already been canceled. So, yeah. That's just such is life, so to speak. And some of them have been rescheduled, others have not. And a couple of these things, like these spring golf events, will just be canceled. They won't be made up because they'll just continue down with their schedule as it was already planned out.
Speaking of golf events, I've gotten the first couple of golf balls in my front yard already.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last week, how could you not get out on the course
with all that wind and so on? Now, do you play golf?
I do.
Okay.
I am a very recreational golfer.
Okay, so now do you go out there when the wind is just stupid?
Try not to, but it's kind of hard in Wyoming.
Yeah, okay. Because that's a different kind of golf, I would assume. If you grew up playing golf in Wyoming and you went to some place that didn't have a whole lot of wind, I think you're going to have a problem because you're used to fighting the wind when you shoot the ball. But now that you can hit the ball just straight and the wind is not going to turn it one way or the other, what do you do?
Yeah, there is an adjustment to that. I have done that in my life, Glenn. There is absolutely an adjustment. I'll take you back to about a week ago with the Masters. Thursday and Friday, very, very, very windy conditions, and I sat there and laughed like they were talking about 20 to 30 mile an hour winds and how this is impacting the golf ball. I'm like, welcome to life in Wyoming as a golfer.
Yeah. Now, on another side note of that, though, so there's a friend of mine who grew up through his adult years anyway, flying small airplanes in Wyoming. And he tells me that when he arrives at the airport and there's no wind, that's when he has a hard time landing the airplane. He doesn't.
I can certainly believe that.
Yeah, well, he's just so used to one thing. I mean, what do you do?
Exactly. Well, speaking of golf, let's talk a little bit about it. The Wyoming Cowgirls are at the Mount West Women's Golf Championships. Started on Tuesday at the Dinah Shore Tournament Course in Rancho Mirage, California. The Cowgirls sit in a tie for 8th place after the opening round. They're at 11 over par. Jaden Gonzalez and Kyla Weil lead the Cowgirl contingent on the opening day. They both carded an even par round of 72 to tie for 11th. San Jose State leads the team standings in the conference championships at 8 under par. So they're 19 shots in front of the Cowgirls. Individually, the Spartans, Lucia Lopez Ortega fired a 5 under 67 and has the lead after the opening round. Day 2 going on right now. Speaking of University of Wyoming, the Cowboy football team has not one, not two, but 3 players officially in the transfer portal. That's right. College football's version of free agency got underway on Monday. 3 players officially entered. Quarterback Carson May announced on Monday he'd be leaving, and then he's been joined by running back Tyler Jacklich and cornerback Josh Dixon. May and Jacklich never played a down for the Cowboys. Josh Dixon appeared in 3 games last fall, made 1 total tackle. That was actually in the loss at Texas. So really, Cowboys not losing too much, but, it happens. Free agency in college sports, we just got to get used to it now. Jeff Linder and the Wyoming men's basketball team has added 3 new players. Obi Agbum, a 6'3", 180-pound guard, is transferring from Fort Lewis College. It's the same place the Cowboys just got Aquel Cott from. Cott was only eligible for 1 season. Agbum will have 1 year of eligibility. Another player with a year of eligibility will be Tyree Iheanacho, 6'4", 190-pound guard from the University of North Dakota. And then with 2 years of eligibility, Matija Belic from Serbia is transferring to UW from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He's a 6'7", 205-pound wing. Those are the new additions to Jeff Linder's squad. High school sports in softball, Kelly Walsh beat Natrona 13-5 in the conference game between the 2 crosstown rivals in Casper on Tuesday. A 4-run second gave the Trojans the lead for good. Kayla Clare had 3 hits, including a double and 3 RBIs for Kelly Walsh. Game 2 ended in a 4-4 tie after 6 innings of play, and then the time limit expired. So Kelly Walsh 5-9-1 overall, 10-3-2 overall for Natrona. The Trojans are 2-3 in the conference, while the Phillies 3-2. Central at Laramie, South at East got postponed yesterday because of weather or field conditions. As I just mentioned with Glenn, Central and South will play today. That got moved up from Thursday in high school softball. And in case you want any of the prep sports news, wyopreps.com or the WyoPreps mobile app, absolutely free. And yes, we will end with the Rockies lost yesterday, 5-0 to the Phillies. Game 3 is at 4 o'clock Mountain Time this afternoon. Rockies, by the way, 4-14 on the season.
4-14.
Yes.
Okay. See, I really think we should just move them to a junior high school varsity team until they get their act together. I'm just tossing that out there.
It's not a bad idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dave. See, he's got no comment. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on your weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming.